Hey David, so I'm liking the new setup here. This looks great. The when I first was looking at this, I was thinking, man, that looks really tight to fit in there. But as you start squatting, I can see it's like perfectly positioned. I thought this bench was looked too close at first, but it looks great. I love having two bars set up, so that you can just save a bunch of time with your warming up one while you're doing the other. So very cool setup. I like it a lot. I'm a little bit jealous, I'll admit it. Also like the copious amounts of matching 45s that you have. I don't have that either. All right, so let's look here at your squat. Overall, looks really good. My only issue on this one really is you're lifting your chest a little bit early coming up out of the bottom. So you start lifting your chest about right here. Okay, it's a bit early. I'd like to see you stay in your hips longer. Again, at these weights, it's not going to affect you that much, but when it gets really heavy, you want the hips to be like your low gear. If you're riding your bike or if you're driving a manual vehicle, that low gear feels a little slower, especially when the weight's light, but that's where all your power is. All right, so the cue I like is driving your hips to the ceiling. Basically, I want you to drive your hips up, use the same hip drive you're using to get out of the bottom, and stay in your hips as long as you're possible. So drive your hips up like you're trying to drive your hips all the way to the ceiling. Nice job on the squats overall. There is a little bit some still of your elbows coming up and the bar rolling forward a little bit. So keep working on that. I'm just not highlighting it for this workout in particular. It does look a little better though. So fight to keep those elbows down and the bar from rolling forward on your back. All right. I also noticed, I know this one's not new, the rep fitness bench, but I've been curious about that one as well. I like this small foot at the bottom there. Um, so nice setup you got going here. I notice your clock back here as well. Oh, another clock here. Cool. All right, I'm done looking at your gym. Let's take a look at these bench presses. So the main issue on these, if you notice here, if you watch your wrists, they're motorcycling back on the way down, and then they roll forward on the way up. So I'd really love to see your wrist just stay static. That the wrist wraps here should act like a little bit of a proprioceptive cue so that you can feel your wrist moving. What I'd really like is, make sure those wraps are tight enough that if you make a fist or if you squeeze the bar really hard, you can feel your wrist, expand, the muscles in your wrist contract and push against those wraps. Now, I don't want you to lose feeling in your fingers, but if you do that, then you have the proprioceptive feedback of what it feels like to squeeze your hand really hard. All right. And then from there, I want you to squeeze the bar really hard and try to lock those wrists in place. All right. I'm less concerned with if your wrists are bent or straight than I am with them moving throughout the rep. So squeeze hard, keep your wrists static for the whole set. Just one less moving part in the whole thing. Let's see. Your barbell row. Let's look at your setup mainly here. I think your execution of the lift is fine, but I'd like to see this a little bit more like a deadlift setup. So bring your feet directly under your hips and set up very much like you would a deadlift. The bar can be a little bit more forward of your midfoot. I like it over the midfoot. Everybody's a little different on how their preference here. But if you set up a little bit more like a deadlift, I think it's going to allow you to keep a slightly more horizontal back because the start is your legs are going to be a little bit longer, so you're going to be bent over a little bit more. Um, and I think that's just going to help that start because I'd like you to stay horizontal as much as possible. The other thing on the barbell row, this version of the barbell row, is I want you to try to start this lift at the very beginning with your knees and hips. All right, so you're rowing right off the ground, and that's fine. That's one way to perform a row, but I don't want these to be super strict, okay? I want you to be fairly horizontal, but I want you to start this with straight arms. So it's almost like a deadlift when you start. You're going to use your knees, mostly extending your knees to start the bar and setting your back. So you set your back, extend your knees, and that gets it started with straight arms, and then you're going to finish powerfully with the rowing motion. All right. I believe they talk about that in the Barbell Logic row video. If you have a chance to look at that before your next workout, it should be linked in the workout itself. Check that out and see if we can just it's like cheating, but we want a little bit of cheating on the barbell row. Okay. All right. Also, nice job on the pull up. That's great. I'd love to program pull ups in we're gonna start doing that. Let's see, we've already started alternating with the barbell row, so I would actually love to start putting some pull-ups in your sets, and we'll do something like accumulating singles, and I'll see if I'll ask you in the comments here if you have any bands, we can add that as well. But yeah, I'd love to start programming pull-ups, and it'd be great. So nice job, David. Hope you're recovering well from your birthday bash, and have a good week. Take care.